I just watched the movie Nightcrawler, and the purpose of movies like this and all forms of media, the vast majority of all forms of media, including literature, is the denigration and subjugation of humanity at large. That is the purpose. Films like Nightcrawler, which I began to watch, I think, a few years ago, and I turned it off because it gave me the heebie jeebies, rightfully so. But it came up to my attention the other day, and it was being used, I would say, more or less under a good light or for a good purpose. This video was referencing a few films depicting how they described young men who were perhaps disparaged from society, uh, forlorn, struggling to claim their place in the world, to find their life's work, to secure, you know, their own place and freedom and success, to claim what they want, what they desire, and the lengths that they would go to get it, which were quite extreme. And it was a good, interesting case study, if you want to call it that, of these films. And so for that reason, I downloaded and watched the movie just tonight, just now. And my come away from this, it's the same reason which I turned it off last time and why I've turned off other movies. It's like Joker, the movie, and many modern music and songs and album covers and imagery with these musicians and movies and books, I'm sure, in recent years, particularly, are very dark and depressing. Um, Sadistic, masochistic, macabre, gloomy, dark, soulless, you know. They suck the life out of and joy out of you. They're despairing. And that's the point. That is the point of this media. It certainly is nothing good. It's not to inspire young men to go for success. Um, and that's the thing with the vast majority of media, including books. Books, have this rap as being, the enlightened form of media for intellects. And it's all for enlightenment and, for intelligent people and things like this. And I'll give it some credit to that direction. But unfortunately, the medium itself, yes, but just like every other form, and in fact, it's a more insidious. It can be a more insidious form than others because it's so subtle, right? Books are not moving; they're not making noise with sound, um, but they can depict pernicious, malicious, insidious, sinister, dark, evil lies and imagery and ideation into you. And they've been using books for millennia, whatever, since the beginning for this purpose, guys. So I like to highlight that part because of, like I said, how books are viewed. But it's everything, right? So these days, even, it's always been this, but children's media, the cartoons, the books, the stories, the movies, the animated ones, or live action, all of it, guys. The education in the school, we know that this is becoming to the forefront of many people's attention. The problems that are going on, the dumbing down of people, but also the denigration, there's some other words I'm searching for, but to lower people and to condition them. And these are all, you could say, rituals. It's everything's a ritual to create slaves, traumatized slaves, mind control slaves, really. People in the conspiracy circles, and it's becoming more and more mainstream, these subjects, uh, and widely known, such as MK Ultra Monarch Mind Control, which was a CIA program, I believe, and other similar programs. Um, but the truth is, all forms of media are or can be, and mostly are used as spell casting to hex you, to vex you, to lower you, to curse you, to transform you. And that's what they do. That is what they do. And, this is coming from someone who's been an avid movie watcher all my life. Um, I was raised, in most ways, in many ways, like anyone else here in Canada, where I am, and I still continue to watch these things. Although, I should just stop. I need to come into my purpose. But to stay on the point here, guys, try to. It's always on point, but I just wanted to say that, Joker, that movie, I didn't like it. It's so depressing. So depressing. And we know that depression is on the rise and has been probably since the beginning of recorded, history or whatever. And particularly in the last, I'm sure, 60, 70 years. And why do you think that is? I mean, what is depression? What are all these things? What are all these negative thoughts in our head and all this neuroticism and self-doubt and suspicion and paranoia of other people and everything? These things have all been seeded and spellcast upon us and conditioned into us to become like this, guys. This. Sorry, I wish I had a nice place to put the phone instead of just holding it. My arm gets a little tired of holding it after a while, but I wish. Okay, what was I saying? Just you know, people tend to think that wholesome living, pure living, holy living is some cheesy, corny, you know, slave-like, controlled, prudish, Puritan, dull, boring, you know, fantasy, fable, religious thing, whatever, all these things, right? But that's the enemy has programmed all that into you. And so I don't need to claim whether, the Bible or any book is the one and only source or anything. I think I think it is. I think it is accurate, but that's fine. I challenge that, and I'm open to these things. But the truth is the truth, regardless of a book, of any written text. We see it here in our day-to-day lives, guys. I've always focused on that. What is here, what is now. I've never been one for what ifs. What ifs? How about what is? We just look around. We don't need to have great intellectual concepts, precepts. Just look at what is, guys, in our day-to-day lives. Because when you can pull great truths into something simple that we experience on a basically daily basis, well, that makes it more real to us, and we can understand it and see it. And that's how we know, guys. That's how we know. And so to live wholly, devoutly, purely, joy is joyful. It's going to be joyful. It's going to be peaceful. It's going to be harmonious in a way that many of us have never experienced before. And, for those of us that have, or whatever, to whatever degree, we want to maintain that, for sure. And the competition, the grueling way, I won't say the nature of this world, because perhaps the nature of the world it's open to interpretation. And so the ones who create that good or bad part of it is not the nature itself, right? It is what it is. But the ones here who are making our choices upon this earth, aka human beings, and perhaps whatever influences are here with amongst us, whether that's spirits or demons or whatever else, angels, anything. And we're the ones who are struggling between good versus evil, right versus wrong. The world, the nature just is. It's survival, its instincts. They do what they must. They're of a free conscience, I believe, unlike us, who is aware of these things. And then we are thereby bound to knowing good and evil and to doing what is right. And the way we're living, guys, is just wrong. And it's hurting ourselves and everybody. And we're trying to outsmart ourselves, but that's how the enemy gets you. He appeals to your pride and your arrogance and your intellect, right? That's what it is. It's your arrogance. My arrogance. I have it too. And so that you think that this is something, these are good things that you want to endeavor into, good things, to become a master, to become experienced, to become savvy, to become wily, capable, by partaking, to become cool, to become esteemed, to become a peer, whatever it is. Partaking in bad things, unhealthy things, hurtful things, wrong things, immoral things, that the world is so drenched in right now. And one of the main ways is, it's one of the greatest things is these forms of media, which are propagated, proliferated, and have permeated all areas of our lives and our culture, and basically all over the world. Even the most remote tribes are probably not completely immune to them, but books and music and TV shows and all this. There's so much these days. I've been remarking for a while about, and I've always been behind the technology curve, even though I've been quite a technological person in my understanding and use of it. Computers and just mechanical things, but I've always been behind the curve in terms of like getting a smartphone, and everyone was getting onto streaming services years ago, probably more than 10 years ago now. when Netflix was getting popular, and I never ever got onto it. And I mean, I think I used the free trial for like a month back in the day, and Netflix was better, a lot better back then. But I've been commenting how that, and other people say, how many streaming services there are now, and how many movies are being produced and TV shows. It's just like, and the quality of them is like things are different, right? It was like we used to watch all these blockbuster movies, and we would say that they were really good. They were really good. They were very entertaining, and they were very well produced, and the acting and all that stuff was much. I think the total package was better at entertainment, right? And the way that they did it. But really, like, what is entertaining? Really, really entertainment is really to entertain a something, to entertain a thought, an idea, an image, a reality. If I tell you my idea for something, you entertain me and my idea, and I illustrate to you a picture of reality that I can feel and perceive to bring into creation, to manifest. And, I strive to share that with you. And that's what it is, right? That's what being entertained is. Entertained. We're we're entertaining someone else's vision of reality. And that will be manifested, right? As we entertain it. And as we continue to entertain it. And in doing so, and particularly, not only, but especially if you do not have discernment, then you will be more um, inclined to take the programming, to take the spell will be more effective on you. And this is exactly, guys, the condition that we're in. We're all under spell. We're under 1,000 spells, or one great, complicated, effective spell. You can consider the Matrix a spell. It is a spell, guys. It's a spell. We're under illusion, delusion, under hallucination. We're under vexation. We're under altered senses, altered consciousness, altered thoughts. It's been altered. And the screen, the matrix there, it's so pervasive and permeating, right? And this is how we've gotten to this place that we're in, right? It's about getting away from source, which is God. And how do you get away from it? Well, you think someone who's plugged into virtual reality is away from source? I would say so, yeah. Someone who's on some kind of substance, a drug, who's stoned and not in their right mind, are they away from source? I would say so. Yes, you can have a conversation about entheogens or drugs that give people spiritual or seemingly spiritual experiences and whatnot. And okay, that's fine. We can have a conversation about that. But in general, I would say things that put you out of your sober mind is getting away from source, like a child, right? So if you like DMT or psilocybin mushrooms or LSD or something else, uh, or even marijuana, but would you want to give it to a child? Most people would not, and mostly everyone would know that that would be wrong to do, and that would be unhealthy for the child. So if it's unhealthy for a child and you wouldn't give it to a child, why do you take it? Why is it good for you? Why is it good for anyone? I think the clear answer is that it isn't good for you. It isn't healthy for people. Are there trade-offs? Sometimes, yes, I understand that there is nuance and context, and sometimes something that's like bad can actually be good or useful in a certain context and situation. But generally the rule would be then not to partake of such a thing, right? Unless you need to, and to pursue superior avenues where possible, as much as possible. And why should it not be possible? Perhaps we've gotten to a place where it is no longer possible. You can't go back to being pure exactly as you were once it's lost, right? I think to some degree you can restore it, but you cannot go back 100%. And so sometimes, we get to a condition where we have to live with it, and perhaps that's part of just the maturation process, not just in a physical sense and a human becoming an adult in society sense, but more so in a spiritual sense and in our consciousness and walk with God and our creator and source energy, right? Um, hmm hmm So this smoke screen, you know, it's like, what is Project Bluebeam? Is it lights in the sky, or is it, the lights in our eyes from these screens, which I'm on right now? I'd rather be speaking to you in person. Of course I would. You can imagine the energy exchange would be much different and much better. Um, but it's like a form of blue beam itself, right? What is it? To project ideas of something that's not real, of something that isn't there. That's what lies are. They're not real, but they convince you. The blue beam up in the sky is meant to convince you of something that isn't real. And these screens and the media proliferating lies, propaganda, which is what the vast majority of media is. And not just the news, but entertainment. It's all actually propaganda, which is worse than simple deceit, I suppose. But I think it's more specific in that, you know, people who might be waking up to this stuff or have some suspicions of, you know, the government or this and that agency or is not has not always or does not always tell the truth or intend at least to tell the truth, and they think perhaps that sometimes that they make mistakes or that they just do something bad, but it was like, okay, everyone has a mistake or flaw of character that they sometimes they have to learn, and then we're sorry. But when you see more fully the truth, you realize that these things are targeted, specific, calculated, engineered, right? They are intent. It's a spell cast. It takes intention to cast a spell, doesn't it? We all know that. We've seen enough Harry Potter and every other and every other thing, story told to us, every other image told to us. It takes intention, intention, focus, will power, consciousness, energy, directed, focused. Oh, which brings something to my mind. Is that what do people keep saying these days? What is the true currency? It's attention, right? What is the age of the digital age and social media age telling us all? Is that we are the product. And what is the currency? It's our attention. Same with the dating world. All these manosphere people are talking about, well, what do women crave and what do they need? Attention, attention, attention. And, people, it's attention. Where is our energy? Attention is energy, right? They say, not to look a wild animal in the eyes because they take it as a challenge because it's attention, it's energy, it's focus. There's willpower, there's drive, there's motive, there's intent behind it. The eye is the portal, the window of the soul, right? And a lot of energy flowing through there. And it directs, and it's a portal. It's a portal. Like the vagina. Many of these things are portals of energy exchanges. Are they not? Our mouth, our ears, all our senses, everything is really, it's like a portal between worlds, between energies, between source and subject, the experiencer. Yeah. Whew. Man, it's all portals. They're all dimensions, multi-dimensional, multi-senses. And that's why the attack of the enemy is from every angle, to every sense, in every flavor and preference and distinction, for every type of person, for the intellectual, for the quiet loner, the isolated, the nerd, the strong man, the proud, the conscientious. There's something for everybody, and there's vice for everyone. And these things have become more increasingly celebrated, recognized, um, validated, and and we're quickly seeing the awful results of these things, uh, in a more conscious way than ever before. Because before the social media and the internet's propagation, the way that we can communicate and see these things happening, before, many things in the past were behind closed doors. They weren't reported, they weren't videotaped and shared around the world within minutes or hours and days, and now things are. And I believe that in the Bible it said that, in the end, it said that all things that are hidden would become manifest, right? Everything will become known, I believe, in the end times. I do a lot of paraphrasing, so forgive me. I think you can understand the essence of my message, and I think the essence is accurate, and that's what's important. So, and we see that is happening, guys, on every area of every front, you know, and knowledge shall be increased. And it is, you know, in terms of knowledge and information and exposure, young children are exposed to more than, you know, in certain ways than our elderly for thousands of years, right? So like it's affecting us completely. And that's why it's the quickening. Things are happening faster and faster, and I think that that's what happens, yeah, as you get older. Well, this has definitely gotten into a subject. It's so these movies, guys. That's a wow, wow. I feel a certain energy, presence of God, energy, the source, and um, praise God. So let us be more mindful, guys. Let us, you know, men, women, boys, girls. Let us be more mindful. Not more mindful. Let us be mindful of what we're consuming in every form we consume. Um, and the Bible says that it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, but what comes out of him ultimately. But there are consequences to consuming things which are unhealthy and harmful. Okay, right? So let that distinction be known. Um, you know, Partaking in bad things, uh, earthly pleasures which have harmful consequences, they don't condemn you to hell. They don't condemn your soul. They don't, you know, eternally separate you from God, but they do have consequences. And we're all suffering them right now, guys. We're all suffering them. And that's what suffering is. That's what suffering is the source of, right? The source of it is suffering. Being away from God, being away from our source, our energy, which is, God's energy in us. And getting away from that to, like a selfish, self-awareness, self-consciousness, self-pride, ego, narcissism, whatever it is, the hubris, the competitiveness, the greed, the envy, all these things, they drive it all. They drive it all. It's terrible. And, we need to be in love with God, with our Creator, and thereby with each other. And through Him, with ourselves, Because if we could see ourselves as God sees us, then we would love ourselves, we would love God, we would be in love. All in all. Love would be in all in all, would be love. And that's what it's all about. And nothing evil and harmful can permeate that. It cannot. Only by our free choice can we allow it to, right? If we maintain, then it cannot be defeated, it cannot be permeated unless we allow it in. It's just like the vampire or the police, whatever, that they can't come in the house. Pardon me. Unless you invite them in. You have to invite it in, right? You have to invite it in. You have to invite it in, guys. So, don't be a fool. We cannot be fools to say, how did this happen? When we are the ones who let it in. When we partook of it. We saw it and said, that seems nice, that's... And we invited it in. And then the consequences come sometimes immediately, sometimes the next day, sometimes down in the future. And sometimes it's very long in the future and very long lasting. And these consequences, guys, we know that this is true, that these things are true. And I've been doing it myself.